Maya had been dreaming about this trip for months. A whole week away from the city, away from demanding clients, away from the noise and stress that had been crushing her spirit lately. Her company offered this cabin retreat to employees who needed a mental health break, and after 3 rejected design projects in a row, she desperately needed it. The drive up the mountain was peaceful. Pine trees lined both sides of the winding road, and the air got crisper with every mile. When she finally pulled up to the cabin, it looked perfect. Small, cozy, surrounded by towering trees. This was exactly what she needed. Complete solitude. She grabbed her bags from the trunk and walked up to the front door. The key turned smoothly in the lock, but when she pushed the door open, she froze. Someone was already inside. A guy stood in the kitchen, mid-bite into an apple, staring at her with the same shocked expression she probably had on her face. For a moment, neither of them said anything. They just stood there, confused and awkward. Hi? He finally said, lowering the apple. Can I help you? Maya's heart was pounding. I think you're in my cabin. I have a reservation. He frowned and pulled out his phone. That's weird because I have a reservation too. I checked in yesterday. This couldn't be happening. Maya dug through her purse and pulled out the confirmation email on her phone. She showed it to him. He showed her his. Both legitimate. Both for the same cabin. Both confirmed by the owner, Mrs. Henderson. This is insane, Maya muttered, immediately calling the number on the email. It rang and rang, no answer. She tried again. Still nothing. The guy tried calling too. Same result. Mrs. Henderson wasn't picking up. Look, I got here first, he said, but his tone wasn't mean. Just tired. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I really need this time away. I've been planning this for weeks. So have I, Maya shot back. I paid for this cabin. I need this break just as much as you do. They stood there in the doorway, the tension thick between them. Maya noticed his eyes had dark circles under them. He looked exhausted, like someone carrying a heavy weight. She probably looked the same way. Then both their phones buzzed simultaneously. Weather alert. Severe snowstorm warning. Heavy snowfall expected within 2 hours. Roads would be dangerous to impassable for the next several days. They looked at each other, then out the window. The sky had already turned gray and heavy. Snowflakes were just starting to fall. You've got to be kidding me, Maya whispered. The guy ran his hand through his hair, clearly stressed. Okay, let's think about this logically. One of us could leave right now and try to beat the storm. But those mountain roads are no joke, and if you get caught halfway down, Maya knew he was right. She'd driven those winding roads on the way up. In a snowstorm, they'd be treacherous, potentially deadly. So what are you suggesting? She asked, though she already knew the answer. We both stay, just until the storm passes and the roads are safe again. He held up his hands. Look, I'll sleep on the couch. You can have the bedroom. We'll stay out of each other's way. It's only for a few days. Every part of Maya wanted to refuse. She'd come here for peace and quiet, not to share a tiny cabin with a complete stranger. But what choice did she have? Drive down a mountain in a blizzard? Fine, she said, stepping fully inside and closing the door behind her. But I'm taking the bedroom and we need ground rules. Agreed. They stood there awkwardly for a moment and then he stuck out his hand. I'm Ryan. She hesitated, then shook it.
Maya. Nice to meet you, Maya. Even though the circumstances are absolutely ridiculous. Despite everything, she almost smiled.
Yeah, this is definitely not how I pictured my week going. The first few hours were incredibly awkward. Maya took her bags to the bedroom and unpacked slowly, trying to process the situation. She could hear Ryan moving around in the living room, probably feeling just as uncomfortable as she did. When she finally came out, he was organizing the kitchen. I was just checking what food we have, he explained. I brought supplies for one person. If we're both staying, we need to know what we're working with. Maya added her groceries to the counter. Together, they had enough food for maybe 5 or 6 days if they were careful. Ryan pulled out a notebook and started making a meal plan. He was methodical about it, organized. Maya found herself appreciating that he was taking this seriously. So what brought you up here? Ryan asked while they were sorting through the pantry. Maya hesitated. She didn't really want to share her problems with a stranger. Work stuff. Just needed a break. You? Same, he said. But something in his voice suggested there was more to it. He didn't elaborate and she didn't push. Dinner that first night was painfully quiet. They ate at opposite ends of the small dining table, the only sounds being forks scraping plates and the wind picking up outside. The snow was falling harder now, coating the windows. After dinner, Ryan set up his sleeping area on the couch with blankets and a pillow. Maya retreated to the bedroom early, even though she wasn't tired. She just needed space. The whole situation felt surreal. Lying in the unfamiliar bed, listening to the storm howl outside, Maya stared at the ceiling. This was supposed to be her healing retreat, her chance to reset and find herself again. Instead, she was trapped in a cabin with someone named Ryan, who was probably just as miserable about this arrangement as she was. She heard him moving around in the living room, probably settling in for the night. The cabin was small enough that she could hear everything. Great. No privacy at all. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend asking how the retreat was going. Maya typed out a response explaining the situation, but then deleted it. It was too complicated to explain over text. She'd tell her later after this nightmare week was over. The wind rattled the windows and Maya pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Outside, the storm was getting worse. She'd made the right choice staying, even if it meant sharing the cabin. At least she was safe, but safe didn't mean comfortable. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. They were two strangers, both running from something, both needing space that neither could have, and they were stuck together for the foreseeable future. Maya closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but her mind kept racing. What was she going to do for the next several days? How were they going to coexist in this tiny space? Would they just avoid each other the whole time? In the living room, she heard Ryan shift on the couch. He was probably thinking the same things. The first night passed slowly. When Maya finally drifted off to sleep, her dreams were restless, filled with swirling snow and closed doors and a strange sense of being trapped. When she woke up the next morning, the world outside was completely white and the cabin felt even smaller than before. Maya woke up to darkness. Complete, total darkness. For a second, she was disoriented, forgetting where she was. Then it all came back. The cabin. The stranger. The storm. She reached for the bedside lamp and clicked it. Nothing happened. She tried again. Still nothing. Perfect, she muttered, fumbling for her phone. The screen lit up, showing it was barely 7 in the morning. She also had a notification about the power outage affecting the entire mountain region. No estimated time for restoration. In the living room, she could hear Ryan already moving around. When she opened the bedroom door, she found him standing by the window, looking out at the aftermath of the storm. "Power's out," he said without turning around. I noticed. The world outside was buried in snow. It had piled up against the cabin walls, covering the windows halfway up. The trees were weighted down with it, their branches drooping. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "We need to move fast," Ryan said, finally turning to look at her. "Without power, we have no heat except the fireplace. We need to get that going and figure out how to stay warm." Maya wrapped her cardigan tighter around herself. The cabin was already getting cold. Her breath was starting to show in small clouds. They spent the next hour working together out of necessity. Ryan knew how to build a fire properly, which Maya was grateful for. She'd watched camping videos once, but never actually done it. He showed her how to arrange the logs, how to use the kindling, how to keep the airflow right. "My dad used to take me camping every summer," he explained while stacking wood, "taught me all this survival stuff. I thought it was annoying back then. Now I'm actually glad he forced me to learn." Maya found herself watching him work, noticing the careful way he did everything. Methodical, patient, nothing like the stressed, frantic people she usually dealt with at work. "What about your dad now?" she asked, then immediately regretted it. Too personal. They were supposed to be keeping their distance, but Ryan didn't seem bothered. "He passed away 3 years ago. Heart attack. Completely unexpected. I'm sorry." He shrugged, but she could see the pain in his eyes. "Thanks. Some days are harder than others." Once the fire was going, they had to make more decisions. The bedroom was furthest from the fireplace, which meant it would be freezing. They'd both need to set up in the living room to stay warm. "I'll drag the mattress out here," Maya offered, but Ryan shook his head. "That's too much work, and we need to conserve energy. We'll both just sleep near the fire. I'll stay on the couch, you can have the floor with extra blankets." It's not ideal, but it's survival mode now. Maya hated how much sense that made. Her private retreat was getting less private by the hour. They moved their essentials to the living room, creating 2 separate sleeping areas with a respectful distance between them. The fire crackled and popped, slowly warming the small space. We need to ration the firewood, Ryan said, doing a count of the logs stacked by the fireplace. This might last us 3 days if we're smart about it. After that, we'll need to start bringing in wood from outside, which is going to be difficult with all this snow. Maya felt a flutter of panic.
3 days?
The weather report said the storm would clear by tomorrow. The storm, yes. But the roads? They won't be plowed for at least a week. This is a private access road. We're low priority. The reality of their situation was starting to sink in. They weren't just stuck together for a couple of days. This could be a week or longer. By mid-morning, they'd established a routine. Ryan maintained the fire. Maya organized their food supplies, creating a rationing system so they wouldn't run out. They barely spoke unless necessary, each lost in their own thoughts. But then Maya made a mistake. She was making coffee, her one luxury she'd brought from home. The expensive, imported beans she'd been saving for this trip. The can was almost empty when Ryan walked into the kitchen. "Is that coffee?" he asked, his face lighting up. "Thank God, I've been dying for some." Before Maya could say anything, he'd grabbed the can and dumped the rest of the precious beans into the French press. "Every last one of them, what are you doing?" Maya's voice came out sharper than she intended. "That was mine." Ryan looked up confused. "I thought we were sharing supplies. You used my bread this morning. That's regular bread. This coffee costs $60. It's supposed to last me the whole week. $60 for coffee?" Ryan's expression shifted from confused to defensive. "Who spends that much on coffee?" "I do. It's the one thing I was looking forward to, and you just used all of it without even asking. I didn't know. You didn't exactly label it with a do not touch sign." They stood there in the tiny kitchen, voices raised, all the tension from the past day and a half suddenly erupting over a can of coffee beans. It felt ridiculous even as it was happening, but Maya couldn't stop herself. "You know what? Fine, enjoy the coffee. I'll just add it to the list of things that have gone wrong this week." She stormed off to the bathroom, the only place in the cabin where she could have a moment alone. Inside, she locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub, taking deep breaths. She was overreacting. She knew she was overreacting. It was just coffee, but it wasn't really about the coffee. It was about everything. Her failed projects, her anxiety, her desperate need for control in a situation where she had absolutely none. The stranger had invaded her space, and now he'd taken the one small comfort she had left. When she finally came out 20 minutes later, Ryan was sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. The finished coffee sat on the table untouched. "I saved half for you," he said quietly, not looking at her. "I really didn't know it was special to you." "I'm sorry." Maya felt her anger deflate. "No, I'm sorry. I overreacted. It's just coffee. I just really needed this week to go right, you know?" "Yeah," Ryan said, finally looking at her. "I get that. Trust me, I really get that." Something in his voice made her pause. She sat down in the chair across from him. "Is that why you came here? Because things weren't going right?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment, staring at the fire. Then he spoke, his voice low. "My fiancée left me 3 months ago. We were supposed to get married next month. She'd been planning the wedding for over a year. Then one day she came home and said she couldn't do it anymore. She'd been having an affair with my best friend. With my best friend. They're together now." Maya's breath caught. "Ryan, I'm so sorry." He shrugged, but his jaw was tight. "Everyone keeps saying that. Sorry doesn't really fix anything, though. I came here because I couldn't stand being in my apartment anymore. Everything reminded me of her. I just wanted a week where I didn't have to pretend I was okay." Maya understood that feeling more than he knew. "I came here because I'm failing at my job," she admitted. "I'm a graphic designer and my last 3 projects were all rejected. My boss hasn't said it out loud, but I know I'm probably going to be let go soon. Everything I touch lately turns to disaster. I just wanted a week to figure out if I even want to keep trying or if I should just give up and do something else with my life." They sat there in silence, both staring at the fire, 2 broken people who'd been thrown together by accident. The tension between them had shifted. It was still there, thick and heavy, but now it was different. Not anger, something deeper. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. "We're quite a pair," Ryan said finally, a slight smile tugging at his corner of his mouth. "Yeah," Maya agreed. "Quite a pair." By day 4, the cabin felt like it was shrinking. Maya woke up to find Ryan already awake, staring at the ceiling from his spot on the couch. She knew that look. She'd worn it herself yesterday. Cabin fever was setting in hard. The snow outside had stopped, but the world was still buried in white. Their phones had limited battery left, and they'd been rationing their use carefully. No more scrolling through social media or watching videos. The silence was becoming oppressive. "Morning," Ryan muttered, not moving. "Morning," Maya replied, stretching out the stiffness in her back from sleeping on the floor. They'd fallen into a rhythm over the past few days. Ryan managed the fire and did the heavy lifting. Maya handled the cooking and organizing. They'd learned to move around each other in the small space, a careful dance of staying out of each other's way. But today felt different. The air felt heavier somehow. After a quiet breakfast of oatmeal and rationed fruit, Ryan suddenly stood up and started rearranging the firewood pile. He moved pieces around, restacking them in a different order. Maya watched him for a minute. "What are you doing?" "Making it more efficient. This way we can see how much we have left at a glance. It was fine the way it was. It'll be better this way. Ryan, it doesn't need to be reorganized. We know how much we have. I'm just trying to help." His voice had an edge to it now. "By making extra work, just leave it alone." Ryan stopped and turned to face her. "You know what? Not everything needs to be done your way, Maya. Just because you have a system doesn't mean it's the only system." "I never said that. You didn't have to. You've been micromanaging everything since we got here. The food, the schedule, where things go. Do you know how exhausting that is?" Maya felt her face flush. "Oh, that's rich coming from you." "You've been just as controlling. Every time I try to do something, you jump in and correct me. The way I build the fire isn't right. The way I wash dishes isn't right. Because there are better ways to do things. Better according to who, you?" The argument escalated quickly. All the small annoyances from the past few days came pouring out. The way Ryan hummed while he worked. The way Maya organized everything with such precision. How Ryan always had to explain everything in detail. How Maya couldn't just relax and go with the flow. "You're so uptight all the time," Ryan said, his voice raised now. "Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be controlled. Maybe that's why your projects keep failing. You can't control everything, Maya." The words hit her like a punch. Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. "At least I'm trying. At least I haven't just given up like you have." "What's that supposed to mean?" "You came here to hide. Your fiancé left you, and instead of dealing with it, you ran away to a cabin in the woods. That's not healing, Ryan, that's avoiding." "And what are you doing?" Ryan shot back. "You're so scared of failing that you can't even see straight anymore. You're paralyzed by fear, and you think coming here was going to magically fix that?" "Get out," Maya said, her voice shaking. "Just get out. It's a one-room cabin. Where exactly am I supposed to go?" "I don't care. Just away from me." Maya grabbed her coat and boots and stormed toward the door. Ryan reached out to stop her. "You can't go outside. It's freezing and the snow is too deep. Don't tell me what I can't do." She wrenched the door open and immediately regretted it. The cold hit her like a wall, and the snow was indeed much deeper than she'd realized. But pride wouldn't let her turn back. She stepped out onto the porch and slammed the door behind her. The porch was covered but still freezing. Maya wrapped her coat tighter and sat down on the steps, her breath coming out in angry puffs of white. Tears streamed down her face, freezing on her cheeks. She was furious, hurt, and worst of all, she knew Ryan was right. She had been trying to control everything, because if she could control everything here, maybe she could prove to herself that she wasn't the failure she felt like. But it was exhausting, and clearly it was driving Ryan crazy too. Inside the cabin, she could hear Ryan pacing. The footsteps went back and forth, back and forth. Then they stopped. Silence. Maya hugged her knees to her chest. Her father had left when she was 12. Just packed his bags one day and walked out. No explanation. No goodbye. She'd spent years wondering what she'd done wrong, what she could have done differently to make him stay. Her therapist had told her she had control issues stemming from that abandonment, that she tried to control everything around her because she couldn't control her father leaving. Maya knew it was true, but knowing and changing were two very different things. She didn't know how long she'd been sitting there when the door opened behind her. She didn't turn around. "I'm sorry," Ryan said quietly. "That was out of line. Your projects, your career, none of that is my business." "I shouldn't have said that." Maya wiped her face with her sleeve. "You weren't wrong, though. Maybe not. But I was cruel. And I'm sorry." He sat down next to her on the steps, leaving a respectful distance between them. They sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the snow-covered trees sway gently in the wind. My fiancée's name was Jessica, Ryan said suddenly. We'd been together for 4 years. I thought I knew her completely. Thought we were building a life together. When she left, she said I never really saw her. That I was so focused on my own plans and my own ideas that I never stopped to ask what she actually wanted. He paused, his breath visible in the cold air. She was right. I did the same thing I was doing with the firewood just now. Tried to organize everything, fix everything, make everything run according to my perfect system. I never realized I was suffocating her until it was too late. My best friend? He listened to her. Actually listened. And she fell for him because of it. Maya turned to look at him. His eyes were red, whether from cold or emotion she couldn't tell. I came here because I'm terrified, Ryan continued. Terrified that I'm going to do the same thing in every relationship for the rest of my life. That I'm going to drive everyone away by trying to control everything. And you're right. I'm avoiding. I don't know how to fix this about myself. Maya felt something shift inside her chest. My dad left when I was 12, she said softly. No warning, just gone. I found out later he'd started a whole new family in another state. New wife, new kids. Like we never existed. Ryan's expression softened. I've spent my whole life building walls, Maya admitted. Trying to control every single thing so nobody can hurt me like that again. But it doesn't work. People still leave. Projects still fail. Life still falls apart no matter how tightly I try to hold on to it. They sat there together, two broken people finally being honest. The cold bit at their skin, but neither moved to go inside. I'm scared all the time, Maya whispered. Scared of failing. Scared of being abandoned again. Scared of letting anyone close enough to see how much I'm struggling. Me too, Ryan said. I put on this whole act like I have everything figured out. Like I'm this organized, competent guy who can handle anything. But inside, I'm a mess. I don't know who I am without Jessica. I built my whole identity around being her future husband, and now that's gone. Maya reached over and took his hand. It was freezing. We should go inside before we get frostbite. Yeah, Ryan agreed, but neither of them moved. I'm sorry for what I said too. Maya finally spoke. About you giving up. That wasn't fair. You're not giving up. You're trying to heal. There's a difference. And you're not a failure, Ryan said firmly. 3 rejected projects don't define you. Your boss doesn't define you. You're talented and creative and smart. You just need to stop being so afraid of making mistakes. They went back inside, the warmth of the fire a relief. But something had changed between them. The tension that had been building for days had finally broken open. And underneath it was something unexpected. Understanding, connection. A recognition of pain that matched their own. That night they stayed up late talking by the fire. Really talking this time. Ryan told her about his childhood, his dad's death. How he'd proposed to Jessica on a beach in Hawaii. Maya told him about her mom struggling to raise her and her sister alone, about her first design job, about the client who'd shattered her confidence with cruel criticism. The walls were coming down piece by piece, and for the first time since they'd been stuck together, the cabin didn't feel quite so small. Day 6 arrived with clearer skies but still no plowed roads. Maya woke up to find Ryan already making breakfast, humming softly to himself. It was the same humming that had annoyed her days ago, but now it felt comforting. Familiar. Morning, he said with a smile when he saw her. I saved you the last of the good coffee. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Things had shifted between them after their breakthrough conversation. The tension was still there, but it had transformed into something else entirely. They found themselves sitting closer by the fire, talking more openly, laughing at stupid jokes. The walls they'd both built so carefully were crumbling. After breakfast, Maya pulled out her sketchbook. She hadn't touched it since arriving at the cabin, too wrapped up in stress and survival. But now, with the morning light streaming through the windows and the fire crackling beside her, she felt the urge to create. She started sketching the view from the window. The snow-covered trees, the way the sunlight hit the ice crystals. It felt good to work with her hands again, to create something just for the joy of it without the pressure of a client's approval. Can I see? Ryan asked after a while, settling onto the floor beside her. Maya hesitated, then showed him the sketch. He studied it carefully, his eyes moving over every line. This is beautiful, he said, and she could tell he meant it. Really beautiful. You have such a unique style. The way you capture the light, it's incredible. It's just a rough sketch." "Stop doing that," Ryan said gently. "Stop minimizing your talent. Own it, Maya. This is amazing work." She felt her cheeks warm. It had been so long since anyone had genuinely complimented her work without adding a "but" afterward. "Can I show you something?" Ryan asked, pulling out his laptop. They'd been saving battery, but he powered it up now. "I write code, but my real passion is photography. I haven't touched my camera in months, but I used to love it." He showed her his portfolio. Landscape shots, street photography, intimate portraits. Each image was stunning, capturing moments of raw emotion and beauty. "Ryan, these are incredible. Why did you stop?" "Jessica hated it," he admitted. "She said it was a waste of time, that I should focus on my career, on making money. She wanted me to be practical. So I put the camera away and told myself she was right." "She was wrong," Maya said firmly. "This is art, real art. You have an eye for moments that most people miss." They spent the afternoon sharing their creative work with each other. Maya showed him old designs she'd loved but that clients had rejected. Ryan showed her photographs he'd never shown anyone. For the first time in months, maybe years, they both felt truly seen. In the evening, while preparing dinner together in the tiny kitchen, their hands touched while reaching for the same pot. It wasn't the first time they'd accidentally touched while navigating the small space, but this time felt different. Neither pulled away immediately. Maya looked up and found Ryan watching her with an intensity that made her heart race. He was standing so close she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "Maya," he said softly. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. The cabin felt warm, intimate. The world outside had disappeared, and it was just the two of them, standing in this small kitchen, connected by something neither had been looking for. Ryan reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered near her cheek. "Is this crazy?" he whispered. "Completely crazy," she whispered back. But she didn't move away. He leaned in slowly, and Maya's eyes started to close. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Every nerve in her body was alive, aware of how close he was. But at the last second, panic flooded through her. All her old fears came rushing back. Her father leaving, the walls she'd built, the inevitability of people hurting her. She pulled back abruptly, stepping away. "We can't do this." Ryan's face fell. "Maya, no, listen. This isn't real. It's just proximity and isolation and our brains playing tricks on us. We're both vulnerable right now, both healing from things. We live on opposite sides of the country. You work in tech, I work in design. When we leave here, this all goes back to being what it really is. Nothing. That's not true." "It is true." Maya's voice rose, more forceful than she intended. "In a week, you'll go back to your life and I'll go back to mine. This tension, this connection, it's just circumstances. It's not real." "How can you say that? After everything we've shared?" "Because I've been here before, Ryan. I've let people in and they always leave. Always. My dad, my ex-boyfriend, every friend who said they'd stick around. Everyone leaves eventually. And I can't do this again. I can't set myself up for that kind of pain. So you're just going to push me away because you're scared?" "Yes," Maya practically shouted. "Yes, I'm scared. I'm terrified. Because this feeling, this thing between us, it feels too good, too right. And anything that feels this good always ends up hurting." Ryan's jaw tightened. "So you're going to sabotage this before it even has a chance? You're going to prove yourself right by making sure it fails?" "That's not what I'm doing." "Yes, it is. You're so convinced everyone will leave that you're pushing me away first. At least then you can control when it ends, right? At least then you can say you made the choice." His words hit too close to home. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Stop it." "No, because someone needs to tell you the truth. You're not protecting yourself. Maya, you're just guaranteeing that you'll end up alone." "I'd rather be alone than hurt," she whispered. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." The silence between them was deafening. Maya turned away, wrapping her arms around herself. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to rebuild her walls even higher. Ryan stood there for a moment longer, then quietly said, "I'm not your father, Maya. I'm not the people who left you. And what I feel for you isn't because we're stuck in a cabin together. It's because I've seen you, the real you, and I think you're extraordinary." He walked away, settling onto the couch with his back to her. Maya stood alone in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face. She knew he was right. She knew she was sabotaging something that could be real, but fear had such a tight grip on her heart that she couldn't seem to let go. That night, they slept in their usual spots near the fire, but the distance between them felt like miles. Neither slept well. Maya lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment in the kitchen over and over. The look in Ryan's eyes, the gentleness of his touch, the moment before she'd ruined everything. In the morning, things were painfully polite between them. They moved around each other carefully, avoiding eye contact, speaking only when necessary. The easy comfort they'd built was gone, replaced by an awkward formality that hurt worse than the original tension. Maya hated it. Hated what she'd done. Hated herself for being too scared to take a chance. But she didn't know how to fix it. Didn't know how to take back what she'd said without admitting that everything she'd built her life around, every protective mechanism she'd developed, might be wrong. The cabin felt smaller than ever. And the silence between them was unbearable. Day 7. Maya woke up to the sound of an engine. A snowplow. She sat up quickly, her heart sinking. The roads were being cleared. Ryan was already awake, standing by the window watching the plow work its way up the mountain road. His bags were packed beside the couch. "They're clearing the roads," he said without turning around. "We'll be able to leave today." "Yeah," Maya said softly. "I heard." The cabin felt different that morning. All week they'd been trapped here, and now that they could leave, the space felt too small and too big at the same time. They moved around each other in silence, packing up their things, cleaning up the cabin. Mrs. Henderson called finally. She was horrified about the double booking, apologetic beyond words. She offered full refunds, extra compensation, anything they needed. Ryan handled the call while Maya folded blankets by the fire. By noon, the road was clear enough to drive. Ryan loaded his car first, making multiple trips to carry everything out. Maya watched from the window, feeling a heaviness in her chest that she couldn't shake. When he came back for his last bag, he paused in the doorway. "I guess this is it." "Yeah, I guess so." They stood there awkwardly. A week ago they'd been strangers. Now they knew each other's deepest fears and dreams, and somehow that made this goodbye even harder. "Thank you," Maya said finally, "for making an impossible situation bearable." "You too," Ryan replied. His eyes held hers for a moment. "Take care of yourself, Maya, and stop doubting your talent. You're brilliant at what you do." "You should pick up your camera again," she said. "The world needs to see what you see." He pulled out his phone. "Can I at least get your number? In case, I don't know. In case we want to stay in touch." Maya hesitated, but then nodded and typed her number into his phone. He saved it and sent her a quick text so she'd have his. "Goodbye, Maya.